Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhare Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhare Yasodanandana Praja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakatamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Sha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatata Satarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girimyat Kripata Mahamade Shri Gurum Dina Taranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pratayata Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratrise Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So today is Ekadasi, so all of you are fasting and fasting from grains, so all of you know today is Ekadasi. So I'm going to shift towards a topic that is chosen today, which is not all classrooms have four walls. So what do you think of this topic? What comes into your mind when you hear the topic, not all classrooms have four walls? Anybody?
So first thing I thought is, Prabhu, that the whole world is a classroom for us without walls, and we have got to learn a lot, not only from nature but also from human beings, animals, birds, beasts, everything.
Yeah, so I think you hit the nail on the head. So that's the topic that was chosen. And this is inspired from Srimad Bhagavatam, obviously, from the 11th canto. We'll get into that a little later. But typically when we know classrooms means, typical academic classroom, you have four walls like this, and you have a roof and you have a door. Typically any classroom, doesn't matter anywhere in the world, that's how a classroom is. And then there is a teacher, and then there are students, you have books, computers, laptops, whatever. Now, in poorer countries, academic learning does not even have four walls. You may have a thatched roof and a teacher, and the students probably sitting on the floor. But that's not the topic for today. Not all classrooms have four walls. It's not, we're talking about the thatched roof without the walls in some poorer nations. And of course, academic learning has progressed in such a way that we do learning at our home, where there is live Zoom class or Google Meet class, the teacher is somewhere else and you're somewhere else, but then the teacher is also within the four walls and a roof and a door, and you're also, as a student, you may be elsewhere, but then that's the interaction. And then you also have self-study as well, right? So you study on your own, at your own pace, within the four walls, a roof and a door, and then you go write an exam. But it does not matter. Academically, all of us have gone through this, except a couple of you here. There are advantages. Obviously, we need education, academic education. Without that, we can't even be here in Canada, right? So we're all here because of some educational qualification that all of us have. So it gives us a status, of course, depending on your education. It gives you the power to get the job that you want, promotional opportunities, also for community service, right? So you can donate money for some community causes in the community. For that, you need job, you need money. So definitely financial stability you will get because of academic qualification. And let's face it, if you want to go to Vrindavan and the Char Dham and other places, right? Who's going to take us for free? Everybody has to pay for the aircraft, and even if you have to stay in a hotel, right? So it's not easy, or it's not possible for us not to be financially stable, and the foundation for us to be stable is education. So that's about, academic qualification. But I'm pivoting towards the topic that we have chosen today. But even though there are advantages, obvious advantages for academic education, there are also some, I won't say problems, but then what you study as your main subject is not what you use at your work. Is that a fair statement? Like physics could be like, thermodynamics and nuclear physics and atomic physics, to an extent, not the full court press. So some of us, like me, study, but then where you're finding your job is totally different, right? So it's a different subject, and then you enhance your skills where you are. So what you studied is not what you use in your work. Many of the people who migrate to Canada, they're doctors, they're lawyers, but then when they come here, because the law is different, the medicines are different, they have to completely study, and many of them say, forget it, it's too difficult for me, and then they take a different path, and then they are happy where they are, which is much easier for them to settle down. So what we study academically does not mean that we are going to use what we studied in our day-to-day working environment. Is that fair to say? In most cases. The second problem is, even if we say, no, you may have studied physics and you may be in a different stream now, but I'm a car mechanic, the greatest car mechanic for Lamborghini car, the beautiful Lamborghini car. Yeah, I can make so much of money. I'm a Lamborghini car mechanic. I'm a Rolex watch mechanic. Does not matter. So in due course of time, the Lamborghini car is no longer operated with gas. Now it's electricity, right? So you have to do complete makeover, change your career. You have to learn everything new because the technology has changed. A Rolex watch, who knows how long Rolex may still be in existence, right? Tag Heuer and Rolex, you have smart watches. So the only thing that is constant in this material world is change. So everything keeps changing. So academically, either we study something and work, we are not using that, or we study something, but then we have to keep updating what we studied because the technology changes. Because of disruptive technology. You heard the word disruptive technology? So disruptive technology means an innovation comes and completely obliterates the old one. So example, let's take into account taxis, right? So taxis are still existing, but you have Uber. About 10 days ago, we were in Dubai. There is another app called Kareem in Dubai, in Middle East. So you will know where the driver is, how many kilometers he's away, you know his name, he knows about you, it's safe. Only when you go to a country like Mexico and other places, you know how safe it is to have something like Uber, right? So you can't take a risk with a taxi. So taxis, either they have to step up to the level of this Uber and other companies, or they will have to go out of business. So Uber versus taxi. And then we talked about the watches, right? So regular watches with smart watches. So all of us know about the smart watches now. And so smart watches have taken over. So it's new learning for designers, manufacturers, employees, users as well. In most cases, it's, yes, much more useful, but you have to learn. And many older people say, forget it. Somebody called me a taxi, or you've seen this, right? Our grandparents or parents say, please help me get a taxi. It's too complicated, I cannot. But then we have to step up to the place. So it's a new learning. Think in terms of a cell phone, right? So your cell phone before, just going to keep the time here. So it's about 6:15, right? Till 6:15. Okay. So a cell phone, before you used to have, I know, not all of you would have heard GPS. You heard about GPS? We used to have Garmin. There's a company called GARMI. Do you know where they are right now? We used to put that in the car dashboard, wherever we want to go. That was the best thing after the maps. Before it used to be maps. And then this Garmin GPS took over. Now you have a cell phone that replaced Garmin. You have the cell phone that replaced flashlight, right? So flashlight, who's got this flashlight anymore? You have it in the cell phone. You have the video recorder, right? So video recorder, before it used to be big video recorder. Now you have the cell phone. It completely obliterated most of the technology, right? What about landline? How many of us have landline, right? Why? Because you have cell phone. You're not going to be carded. You're not going to be sort of tied to a phone, right? You have a cell phone wherever you are. You have the phone. Think of calculator. Staples used to have big calculators. You have a calculator in your phone, right? You can think of anything and everything you have in the phone. Email as well, right? So no more, still Canada Post exists. You still get some few bills, but they tell you, I will reduce the bill amount by this, we'll send you e-bills, right? So that's also going to be totally gone. So one technology, one innovation completely wipes out the other one. You all know about floppy disk. Where is floppy disk? Then came CD, then came DVD, then you have jump drive. So it just continuous learning in material. The only thing constant is the change, right? We used to have Blockbuster. Remember Blockbuster video store? I still remember when you get a video and then you forget, you go out of town for 3-4 days, sir, every day $10 fine, right? For the VHS tape they used to give us, or CD, then DVD, but they used to charge us more. Now it's all Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime, whether we know it or not, this is going to be the future, right? So we talked about CD and audio tape, then CD. Now you have Spotify, so that's the nature, right? So we have currency. We still have currency, but then you have plastic, right? So you have debit card, then you have Bitcoin, right? So now that's how it's progressing. So one technology completely wipes out another technology. Can go on and on, the disruptive technology. This one is disruptive technology, right? We used to go for Boxing Day sales, right? Literally in US, when you go during that time, it's boxing. Really, one person hitting another person because you have limited number of television that they want to buy. It's at half the price. Why would you not take a chance by fighting with some? So Boxing Day, boxing together. Now, it's all e-commerce, right? So at the comfort of your home, even 2 weeks before Boxing Day sale or after Boxing Day sale, you get that same price, and they don't need to store all that in the Best Buy, for example. It's all stored in their warehouse and you get it directly from the computer, etc. So anywhere you look, the technology is never the same. It keeps changing. So that's the nature of the material world. The only thing that is constant is the change in the material world, right? So it's always learning, new learning for designers, manufacturers, employees, and users, right? So I still remember this is funny, but it's true. When email came into play, at that time there was a person who was actually coming every 2 minutes from his home to the mailbox. Even when we were driving, we saw many houses have got this mailbox. We still have mailboxes, right? Depending on where we live, apartment, condo, house, etc. So he was running to his mailbox and he was trying to find out something, and then he went back. So the neighbor was mowing his lawn. See, what is this person? Every 2 minutes he comes out, checks something in the mailbox and goes disappointed, shaking his head. Fourth time he came and then he said, sir, what's going on? Every time you keep going to the mailbox and going back disappointed, what happened? He said, something is wrong with my computer. My computer says you have mail. So he's thinking in terms of mail in the sense the hard copy mail in the mailbox, right? But computer says you have mail means it's email, right? So this was the beginning of this, email trend, right? We're talking about 20 or more years ago. So and then also other thing is how you use the technology, right? So material learning, it can be how to use atom bomb, good way, bad way, etc. Right? So again, to lighten up this another joke where so there were two people who were digging a deep hole for some cabling use. So they were digging, and then from there they saw the boss, their supervisor, sitting in the shade in a chair having some tea. So these guys said, what is this? Like we have to work so hard, we are sweating, and see the supervisor comfortably sitting and still making more money than us. So then they talked and they said, I'm going to ask him why we have to suffer whereas he's enjoying. So one of them went and then he asked the supervisor, sir, why is that we have to work so hard, getting dirty, sweaty, but you're just sitting comfortably? He said, that's knowledge, intelligence. So he said, what is that? I don't understand. So he says, okay, this is a big tree here, right? So he says, I'm going to put my hand here on the tree, with almighty force, punch my hand, right? So he says, on a count of 3, punch my hand. So he keeps his hand next to, just in front of the tree. And then on a count of 3, when he's about to punch him, he takes the hand. So he punches the tree. He's writhing in pain, and the boss says, that's intelligence, that's knowledge. So then, with his hand at the back, he didn't want to show the other person in the hole that he got hurt this way. So he goes down, and then the other person asks, so did he tell you why he's enjoying while we are suffering? He says, yeah, that's something called as knowledge and intelligence. He said, what is that? I'll show you. So this person who punched and got hit, he put his hand in his own face. And he said, with mighty force hit my hand, and then the last minute he took his hand. So the knowledge or the intelligence that we gain, how we use it is very important. So irrespective of the academic qualification that we have, we know that it's all advantages and it gives us the foundation of our life. What we learn outside, as Prabhu said, what we learn outside, even in our day-to-day life, makes a big difference, right? So some of you, maybe, or all of us were immigrants to Canada at some point, 25 years, 5 years, 2 years, doesn't matter. So you may get a G license, but they don't tell you how to drive the car in January or February in a slopy condition when there is so much of ice. So you get that by experience, right? So outside the four walls, not what you learn to get your G license, you learn by experience what others tell you. Oh, watch out in this road, you need better tires, no ball tires, all that comes from experience where you hear and you learn. The scams, all the scams that we go through, right? So investment scam, overseas employment scam. How do you know that? There's no book that teaches you. It's outside the classroom that we know that there are different ways that people can cheat you. So you learn, you hear, and then you experience. Sometimes you may have to get cheated, and then you learn from it for the next time, right? And many things like this. In I don't want to say which country, you'll know. There'll be a nice neighbor sitting next to you in the train. Sir, please you look very tired, please have some biscuits. No, I don't. No, please have some biscuits. Comfortably, you eat the biscuit. In 10 minutes, you're unconscious, sleeping, and 10 minutes later, all your gold jewelry is gone, right? So how do you learn this? This is not from a classroom that you learn, right? So you learn from experience, others' experience, your own experience, etc. And 3:30 when you go take a flight, it's a 24-hour clock, right? So sometimes you think it's 3:30 in the evening and you take a flight, you go to the flight at 3:30 in the evening when it is 3:30 in the morning, right? So again, expensive mistake, you learn from it. So all these are real life scenarios I'm giving. You don't learn from within the classroom, but outside the classroom. So I'm going to pivot to the topic on hand, which is, not all classrooms have four walls. What we learn from the scripture, so you have beautiful Bhagavad Gita and all the other scriptures here. So what we learn in the scripture never changes. So we talked about academic learning. When you may be in SAP, you may be an expert in SAP, or even Microsoft Office, which keep changing. So it's 365 now, the user interface changes, etc. But the scriptures never changes. Yeah, there may be some typos that may be corrected, or some translation may be slightly different in different books. But the scriptures, the contents of the scriptures never change. You all agree? The contents of the scriptures never change. Bhagavad Gita, what was spoken over 5,000 years ago, which was spoken last, is still the same. What everybody's been reading, Madhvacharya and everyone else after that, they're reading the same verses, and nothing changes in what Krishna has spoken. And it's not just 5,000 years ago, but that was the last time Krishna spoke. So we read from the scriptures that Bhagavad Gita is spoken once in the day of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma, according to scriptures, we know is 51 years old. Not in earthly time, but let's say 51 years old, and it's 365 days a year for him as well. So 365 multiplied by 51 comes to over 16,600 or something. So over 16,000 times Bhagavad Gita has been spoken so far. Nothing has changed. It's the same Bhagavad Gita. So our academic learning will change, because the only thing that is constant is change. But scriptures don't change. So what we learned 50 years ago, what we learned 20 years ago, what we are learning now in Bhagavad Gita, even after 10 years, is the same. Nothing changes. The challenge is how to implement this in our life. So understanding the scriptures is not that difficult. You all, what do you think about that? When we say 9.26 Bhagavad Gita, patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakti. So if you offer water, fruit, leaf, or I will accept it if there is love and devotion. Okay? So nothing difficult. How long does it take to memorize that verse? Maybe depending on each one of us, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, and then the English translation. So that's not a problem. But the problem is, how can we always remember to offer something to Krishna before we eat, right? So that's the lifelong practice, right? So the contents of the scriptures don't change at all. In fact, it's not just 18,000 times that Bhagavad Gita is spoken, because in Bhagavad Gita 4.1, Krishna says that he's given the same knowledge to Vivaswan, the sun god. So add that into 2. 16,000 multiplied by 2 is what? 32,000 times Bhagavad Gita is spoken. And every time Srimad Bhagavatam is also taking place, or Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita as a result of that, and Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's all connected. It's all every day in the life of Lord Brahma. So Srimad Bhagavatam also in this 11th canto, 16th chapter, the contents of Bhagavad Gita in a way is repeated. In the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the 16th chapter of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the summary of Bhagavad Gita is there. So in a way, 32,000 times, plus you can say, partially Bhagavad Gita is again reiterated once. So many times, and nothing changes. Right? So what to do, what not to do is there in the scriptures, which does not change at all. So how to internalize that is the challenge. That's why repetition causes retention, right? We keep on repeating something, then we are able to remember. That's why we have these classes once a week in all the centers, so that we keep hearing the same thing. Nothing changes. 9.26, for example, nothing changes Bhagavad Gita. Repetition causes retention. So Bhagavad Gita teaches us what to do, what not to do. So some of the simple ones that we can think of is Bhagavad Gita 2.70, where Krishna says, all practical examples, right? You will have so much of desires in this material world. Because you're a human being, you will have desires. Many of them bad, many of them whatever good, neutral, etc. You'll keep on getting desires. Just like the rivers flow into the ocean. As we know, Bay of Bengal is there, Atlantic, Pacific Ocean, and many rivers go into it. During summer, almost no water go into the ocean, because the rivers are dry. Ganges is also less water during summer. But winter, it's so full and so much of water goes, but then the example that is given is the ocean is always stable, right? So it's not like the ocean becomes so high and floods, inundates Maldives and other Jamaica and other islands, right? No, it's always the same. It remains the same. So irrespective of how your desires flow into you, you remain calm. So these are practical examples, what to do, what not to do. So we can understand the thing, but during the stressful times at work or any other time, how can you think of this and then try to remain calm? That's the lifelong practice, right? So what to do is there. 2.70 we talked about. 3.13, another practical verse, right, where he says, Krishna says, Yajnashishtasina santo muchyante sarva kilbishai, right? So if you offer the food, if you offer the food to me and then eat it, then I will take off all your sins. But if you eat without offering to me, you are verily eating the sin. Okay? Easy to understand, but lifelong practice or repetition, keep on doing it every time, doesn't matter. Sometimes you are on the flight, you can't help it, you are not cooking, but you still offer it to Krishna. You are eating whatever Jain food that you don't have a choice, offer it to Krishna, practically, right? So 5.18, all of us work somewhere, right? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmani Gavyasni. So treat everybody equally, right? So whether it's a Brahmin or anyone, doesn't matter, elephant, a cow, a dog eater. In this case, you may be working. You may be a manager. You have a vice president above you. You have a colleague in the same level. You have many people reporting to you. Treat everybody who's reporting to you as well, like how you treat your vice president, not the other way around, right? Then it's easy. That's the practical example of this particular verse, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmani. So again, how do we practically implement that in our life? So Bhagavad Gita is not for anyone else. It's not for somebody who we don't like. But this is the verse. No, this is for us, right? So how we can internalize that and make our life busy. So many other verses are there. So it doesn't change at all. What to do, what not to do, Bhagavad Gita is there. 9.27 is another beautiful verse. Yat karoshi yadashnashi yat juhoshi dadasi yat tapasasi kaute tat kurusha madam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever austerities you do it as an offering to me. So is this not a very practical thing? You know, you're driving your car, right? You can think of how many people can afford to drive a car, how many people have got, can afford insurance, they're able to see, right, and drive the car. So all this, thank you, my dear Lord Krishna, because of you, I'm able to do it. Very easy. When you're taking bath, how many people they cannot take bath, they need someone else to give them bath because of their physical condition, right? So we all have a home. Many people don't have home. Thank you, Krishna, you've given me a home, I'm able to lie down and I'm able to get sleep. Many people don't even get sleep, right? We take things for granted that it's a privilege for us. Only when we lose what we have, then we know the value of what we had, what is given to us that many people are deprived of, right? Every little thing. You know how many people cannot breathe? They have lung problem. In the last 10 minutes, did we even realize that we were breathing? No problem at all, right? So it's because of the blessings of the Lord we have. So we always can be grateful to the Lord. So these are practical examples. 9.26, 9.27, yet karoshi yadashnasi, right? So these things don't change. So what we learn, not all classrooms have 4 walls. So these are the, you learn probably in your home, which may have 4 walls, but how you implement it is wherever you are going, whenever you're doing. So that's what is you learn outside of the 4 walls. So the scriptural knowledge, if it is only in the book, it's like money in somebody's hand in times of need. It's useless for us. Okay? Scriptural knowledge only in the book. Yeah, I know I memorized that verse, I know this. So scriptural knowledge which is contained only in the book and money in somebody's hand is both useless when there is a time of need. Okay? So we need to internalize little by little, you know, from 0% to 1% to 2%, whatever we can do to increase that particular implementation of the knowledge from the scriptures, right? And scriptural knowledge is the invisible wealth. We all know this. This is the invisible wealth that can never be stolen by any thief, right? Scriptural knowledge or even academic knowledge that you have, maybe you may have to share it in your work because it's company's property, right? So, but scriptural knowledge is invisible wealth that can never be stolen by a thief, and it increases when you share it with others. So whatever you learn, you know, share it with your family members. So in that way, repetition causes retention, and then you're sharing, and therefore you will gain more because of sharing. Somebody will ask you a question, you will be able to answer, etc. So with that, I would like to go very quickly. We have about 15 minutes or so. I think we can go very quickly to what we already know. Many of you know this. Again, Prabhu mentioned, and the hint is from the topic actually is inspired from Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto. 11th canto. How many of you have read the 11th canto? Especially not the seasoned devotees. Anybody here? 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that has read it. Anyone else? No? So Bhadra Purnima is coming on September 29th. I think it's a Friday. So it's a very auspicious day. There's a beautiful verse in, I always quote some verses if you would like to make a note of it so it'll be easy. Otherwise it's searching like a needle in a haystack. So there's a beautiful verse, canto 12, 13, 13. 12th canto, 13th chapter, 13th verse. It's a very famous verse, right? So I'm just going to say it in English, where it says, on this Bhadra Purnima day, Purnima is full moon, right? Like you have Amavasya, Purnima. So on the full moon day, if you give a donation of Srimad Bhagavatam to somebody, it says on a golden throne, you give it to somebody, then you go back home, back to Godhead. So what is the advantage of going back home, back to Godhead? That means no more miseries caused by body and mind, no more miseries caused by other living entities, our friend COVID or dogs and bad teachers, etc. And then no more miseries caused by natural calamities. We know winter is coming, right? We talked about driving, winter is coming. So no more problems. We're not going there because we want to avoid it, but that's a natural byproduct of this. So this is a very famous Bhadra Purnima that's coming on 29th of September. So that's a great date for you to get a Srimad Bhagavatam or for you to donate. So I think there will be a drive in Stouffville as well so that you can take this opportunity. Anyway, you're going to buy it. Why not do it on that day? Because scriptures, clearly mention that. And it's also a very important day because ISKCON founder Acharya A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada took sannyas initiation on Bhadra Purnima, as well as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Lord Krishna himself, his brother Vishwaroop got sannyas on the same day as well. So it's a very powerful day on that day. So Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapters 7 to 29, so that's 23 chapters in between, contains 1030 verses, and it's called as Uddhava Gita. So within that Uddhava Gita, 11.7 to 11.9, there are 151 verses, and that's the teaching of Avaduta. Avaduta means he's like a beggar. He has nothing. He is teaching to the greatest king who's got everything. So this greatest king who's got everything is asking, my dear person who's walking on the road, you seem to have nothing, but you seem to be so happy, you're completely successful in life, whereas I have everything, I'm just the biggest failure, I'm full of stress, full of problems, I have everything, but in a way I don't have everything. You don't have anything, but you seem to have everything because you're completely happy. Tell me the secret. So this Avaduta, the person who's like a beggar, is none other than the 6th incarnation of Lord Krishna, and his name is Dattatreya. So this Dattatreya is giving this instruction to this greatest, powerful, richest king on the secret of success to happily live in this material world. And it is so important that Krishna again, so that was in private, Dattatreya is giving that in private to King Yadu, and Krishna is again repeating this to Uddhava. So how important it has to be for the same information to be repeated twice by Lord Krishna, once in the form of Dattatreya, 6th incarnation, and one by Lord Krishna himself. So that's why it's important. We may not have much time, but I will quickly go through some of the key elements of these 24 gurus that he learned from. He said, I'm completely happy because I learned from 24 gurus. And out of 24 gurus, only 5 are human beings. Okay? So he learned, as Prabhu mentioned, he's learning from nature, he's learning from insects, he's learning from animals, he's learning from reptiles, etc. So let's keep our eyes open because we know that from others' problem or nature, we can always learn and prevent ourselves from getting into the same problem. Okay? So it's so important that is repeated twice by Krishna. So it's in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapters 7 to 9, and he's saying, I learned from 24 gurus. So when we say guru, it's spiritual master. Spiritual master can be either a initiating spiritual master or a instructing spiritual master, right? So initiating spiritual master is called as Diksha Guru, and instructing spiritual master is called as Siksha Guru, instructing. So you can always get instructing spiritual master every day in our life, right? So all of us are teachers, right? We all studied. They're all your instructing, you can say, spiritual masters, right? So technically this is for scriptural knowledge, but even, anything that we learn is from a guru. So he learned from nature, 8 different. It's not a progressive learning or in sequence. So I've grouped them for everybody's easy understanding into learning from nature, learning from human beings, and learning from animals, insects, reptiles, birds, and insects. Okay, is that okay? So I'll quickly go through it, and we can definitely learn from this. So we have 20 minutes more, is that okay? Okay, so the first, this person said he's so happy, no problems in life, which is all important for us as well, to know how to keep out of trouble. So these learnings are how to keep out of trouble in a way. Don't we all need that? We have enough trouble that comes without our knowledge, right? So suddenly somebody hits our car in the back. We didn't do anything, right? So there are problems that are going to happen to you or to us, unfortunately, in this material world without our knowledge, right? So you can't complain. So I went to the boxing ring and they punched me. Yeah, you're in the boxing ring, we are going to get punched, right? So you can't say I jumped into the water, I got wet. Yeah, when you jump into the water, you will get wet. So in the material world, there will be problems. There'll be happiness, success, up and down, dualities of life will be there. But you don't want to unknowingly get into some trouble, right? So that's why these teachings are there, repetition causes retention. So what he learned from earth, the first was, so let me give you the heading. So the 24 gurus are earth, water, fire, air, sky, sun, moon, and ocean. Okay, 8 natural things. Then 5 human beings are a little child, a marriageable girl, an arrow maker, a honey gatherer, and a prostitute. Can you believe that? He's learning from a girl with a bad reputation. And then there are 11 insects, animals, birds, etc. Moth. So 11, let's start off with, moth. He learned from moth. That's the first of the 4 insects. Spider, wasp, honeybee. Then 2 birds, pigeon. There's another bird, hawk. And then 2 reptiles, snake, a python. And then fish. And then he learned from elephant and a deer. Got it? 8 plus 5 plus 11. Okay? So I'm just going to quickly go through, keeping the time in mind, because this can go on for hours, right? There's so much of learning from each one. But earth, what did he learn is the earth tolerance, right? Earth is very tolerant. People dig for oil, drill for oil. As I said, we were in Middle East and we were able to see that, unfortunately. I mean, we all use cars, unfortunately, as well, right? We can't be without that. So here, earth is being dug, and it's still providing home for everybody. All of us live in home, various houses, but where is your home situated? Home is on earth, right? So earth is the home for all the homes as well. If the earth has got no foundation, we are all gone. So in spite of everything that is happening, people spit and do everything, but still earth is providing that, very tolerant, and giving us food, not just for human beings. Elephants, who's feeding all the elephants in all the forests? Anybody here, raise your hand if you're feeding the forest, or elephants in the forest. They eat about 40 kgs of food every day. Okay? African, forest, 40 kgs per elephant every day. Who's feeding them? God is feeding them, and earth is Bhumi Devi, she's feeding. How many of you are feeding the fish? There are trillions and trillions of fish in each one of the ocean. So earth is sustaining everyone. And also, earth is no deviation, as you can see, right? Around the sun it goes constantly. So he learned how to be without deviation towards Lord Krishna. So he's again, Lord Krishna teaching us how to be a devotee, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, Dattatreya was teaching that. And the extension of earth is mountains. Mountains, steady, immobile. So he had this immobile faith towards Lord Krishna. So again, that's a teaching for us, right? So we may get distracted, no, immobile faith. So as they say, when you have big problems, don't tell the problem, don't tell Krishna how big your problem is, but tell the problem how big Krishna is, right? So that's the faith that we need. So, and then another extension of earth is tree. Again, tolerance. If you take a big axe and you cut a sandalwood tree, totally the sandalwood tree is cut down. But even the tip of the axe is rendered with that beautiful fragrance, aromatic fragrance of sandalwood. right? So even if others do something bad to you, do something good to you. So these are significant learning, right? Not easy for us to, yeah, sure, I learned it, and tomorrow you cannot change into a new person, right? It's a gradual understanding and implementation of what we learn. So that's what he learned from earth. Water, purifying, right? Water is always purifying. So if you go to even a mosque, they go to mosque, I think 5 or 6 times. Every time they go, they wash their hands and feet and everything else. So water is a purifying agent. It's very transparent. So he's seeing the transparency in all the wonderful devotees' hearts. The hearts of the devotees are transparent like the water. Pure water is transparent, right? And also the sound, the vibration of the water flowing reminds him of the vibration of the mantras being chanted. So these are the things that anytime he sees a water, then he is chanting, right? So it's 2 ways. So that's what he learned from water. And Krishna says, 7.8, what's the famous verse? Rasoham apsu kaunteya, I am the taste of water. 1842, another beautiful, beautiful verse, Queen Kunti. Tvayame ananya vishaya matir matupate sakrit, right? Just like the water, anybody been to Gangotri? Yeah, mother has been to Gangotri. So, what is the speed of it? If you don't hold the chain, you're gone. Next minute, you're like many kilometers away from there, right? And it's ice cold. So, and doesn't matter, they put a big rock in front of the water. What happens? Either it just bursts through the rock, or it may go around the rock, but it'll reach its destination. So he's, like Queen Kunti is praying, let my devotion flow to you like Ganges flows unto the ocean, right? So here, that's the water. So he's learning from the water how to have the determination towards Lord Krishna. So earth, water, fire. Fire purifies everything. It's called pavaka. It purifies even the gold. You take the best of gold. The best way to make the gold glitter is to put it through fire, right? We can't do that. We can't put it in the stove and do that. But fire purifies even the purest form. And fire is hidden. Right? So when you rub 2 of the wood together, fire manifests. Just like the Paramatma, he said, oh, everybody's got Krishna in the heart, but he's not manifest. Only with love and devotion he manifests. So that's what he learned from earth, water, fire. And fire is the only element that goes upwards. Anything else you put, it goes down. So the fire is the only element that takes our prayers through the wings of the flame to higher realm. Right? So that's why fire is very, very auspicious. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita is fire, Agni 5 times, not once, 5 times, right? The greatest verses or most number of verses in Rig Veda is for Indra first, and second one is for Agni, which is expansion of Krishna, non-different from Krishna. So that earth, water, fire, air. What did he learn from air? Air is the art of detachment and fearlessness, how to cope up with the dualities of life, right? Victory, defeat, loss, gain, birth, death, all these dualities. Because the wind is looking, this Savaduta is looking at the wind, is blowing on top of, let's say, Niagara Falls. It takes the water vapor and it goes, and then after some time it drops it off, right? It doesn't carry forever. Then it blows over a bed of roses, forest of roses. That beautiful fragrance goes, after that it's gone. It blows over gutter. After some time it drops off that. It blows over graveyard. Is the air getting scared of the graveyard? No. So art of detachment is what he learned. Srila Prabhupada, when he was in the Bowery, the east side, drug addicts and everybody was there, but he was still the same. He was in Vrindavan, he was the same. Then he got Bhaktivedanta Manor in England, still he was the same. So there was no change. That's the art of being neutral or non-attachment or tolerating the duality. So earth, water, fire, air, sky. So sky is there. There is so much of thunder, storm and lightning and everything happening, but the sky is unaffected. So he realized that the soul is totally unaffected irrespective of the tribulations that the body can go through. So everybody is okay? Okay. So you don't need to grasp everything, but whatever you are able to, you can always get this Srimad Bhagavatam, go to 11th canto, chapter 7 and 8 and 9, 151 verses is what I'm summarizing right now. You'll have everything that you need, okay? Earth, water, fire, air, sky. Then those are the fire, and then sun. Not to hold back things. Yeah, that's my money. That's my thing, right? That's the typical human mentality, right? What does the sun do? Sun takes the water from ocean, from Lake Ontario, and then through evaporation, then condensation, and then wherever there is agriculture and needed, through the clouds. Now, cloud, have you ever thought about it? The greatest floating reservoir. Greatest floating reservoir. You go in a plane, there is this massive thunder cloud. You go through it, your plane even doesn't get wet. But the water from there can drown, big cities like Bombay and other cities. So that's what the sun does. Sun does not hold back. It takes from somewhere and gives it somewhere else, right? So that's what he learned. As human being, we cannot hold things that we have, right? And also one in many. When you look at the water puddle here, reflection of sun is there. Oil puddle is here, reflection of sun. One in many. So Paramatma is there in everybody's heart. Moon. Looks are deceptive, right? So when you look at a moon, it's half moon, 1/4 of the moon, etc. But is the actual size of the moon diminishing? Is the size of the moon diminishing, or our vision of the moon is different? Anybody? Our vision is different. It's not that the moon is becoming small, little bigger. There are 30 tithis every month, right? So you have Chaturdasi, we talked about Purnima, etc. So it's our vision of the moon. So similarly, the body goes through birth, growth, reproduction, and then dwindling, death, etc. The 6 types of bodily motion. It's only for the body, right? We may get old, gray hair, etc. But the soul does not change. So that's what he learned from the moon. And then he also learned from the ocean. We already talked about the ocean. Like many desires go, but our mind needs to be calm, just like all the rivers flow. More water during winter and less water during summer, still the ocean is steady. By the way, don't get confused with tsunami. Tsunami is nothing to do with more water going into the ocean, right? So that's like an earthquake under the ocean. It's like a special cause event which we don't want. We all saw that at least in India, Sri Lanka, etc. Right? So earth, water, fire, air, sky, sun, moon, and ocean. That's what he learned from nature. Okay, 6:06. So how long we have for?
9 minutes.
9 minutes. We need to have some time for questions.
Yes, maybe another 5.
Another 5 minutes. Okay. Can you fasten your seat belts? Okay, so 5 human beings. So 5 human beings, little child. It's very useful, beautiful, reasoning that he's giving for us, not for anyone else. It's for us. Have you seen the little child? They fight with each other. Next day they're playing with each other. No grudge, nothing. Right? What happened yesterday? Big fight. No fight next day. Friends. Right? For a little baby, you put a gold here, you put a stone here. Both are same for the baby. Right? So that's what he learned. From the child, the art of innocence, right? He learned from the child. Second is from a marriageable girl. This girl was sitting by herself and she's smashing the paddy, the removing the husk. When she's doing that, she's got a lot of these bangles, making big noise. Somebody came to look for a marriageable girl. No one else is there in the house except her. And she's, hitting that rice paddy. The bangles are hitting each other, making noise. So she's thinking, oh, those people who are trying to look for a girl in me as a marriageable girl, they'll know that I'm very poor. Our family is very poor. So what she did, one by one, she removed all the bangles. She had only one bangle here, one bangle here, and she's sitting, no sound, and she was very happy. So what did she learn? It takes 2 hands to clap, or one hand and one cheek to slap, right? So when there is a confrontation, one person he will walk away. So then there is no problem. So that's what he learned from this girl who's smashing this paddy. Third is arrow maker. So there was this beautiful, there's an arrow maker who's sharpening this arrow so much, and then this king is going with all the drum beat and everything. The king is going with 100 and 200 people. And then his neighbor came after 10 minutes. Hey, why did you come out? The king was going. What? The king was going? I didn't even know. Because he was so focused. When you focus on something, everything else becomes unfocused. So he learned the art of focusing on Lord Krishna from this arrow maker. So from the child, from the marriageable girl, arrow maker, honey gatherer. We may be collecting all the money that we want in all different sources. But when Yamaraj, or at the time of our death, can we take the bag of money with us? Sir, Emma, can you give one more guy to carry my bag? Please. I'll give you some, commission. Can you please take my gold? I have a lot of, no, right? Nothing. We'll have to leave everything. So he learned from the honey gatherer. This honey gatherer goes and gathers everything beautifully, right? Like that, all our relatives will expertly collect whatever we collected for the whole life. They will take their due and they'll go. So that's what he learned. So no point in collecting everything or collect and give it. That's what he learned, right? And then he learned from this prostitute, actually, Pingala, right? So who do you surrender to? So she was waiting for some clients, and nobody came at 12 o'clock. Then she realized, why am I surrendering to these human beings? I will surrender to only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Hoping against hope causes misery, but being completely hopeless, being in hopeless condition is utter happiness. She said, human beings, is nothing derogatory, but it's a fact. Human beings, yes, the human body is the house of the soul. And this body, like we have pillars for this house or this church or this room, the body is straightened by these bones. But the body is full of bile, mucus, and all these things. Why would I surrender to a human being? And she started surrendering to Lord Krishna. So the right source of surrender, right? And then all these insects and animals. So deer, sense of hearing. So be careful what you hear. All these rumors about somebody, that's what he learned. Rumors about somebody, it's always very interesting, right? Rumors, oh, so sweet. But it's the greatest thing that can drag us down. So be careful, because how they catch the deer is beautiful sounds they play, especially flute, and the deer will go. You heard the term deer in front of the headlight. That is also weakness, but the greatest weakness for the deer is the hearing. Elephant, the sense of touch. Okay, all of us know this president of United States, all this, you know, the problems that they've had. So the sense of touch between the male elephant and the female elephant, and then they catch the male elephant with a big hole, and they trap the elephant, and lifelong this poor elephant is in Toronto Zoo. That one small touch, lifelong is in the Toronto Zoo or some other zoo. So that's what he learned, be careful, right? So deer, elephant, snake. Snake always resides in some other, like he's talking about a sannyasi, he should not have a residence. Be very undetectable, don't make a big thing, and then stay, you know, like a snake stays in somebody's house, right? Like Prabhupada said that we have all these beautiful parks and planes that are constructed or developed by scientists. We go and preach in that, right? We don't need to spend time in that. Say, python. Python is art of tolerating. You know, the python, have you seen python going so fast? Big snake, fat snake. He'll just lie down, a rat will come, poor guy will go slowly because he'll think he's a dead yeah, it's like a wooden stone or something. Then he'll quietly eat it, and then he'll wait. Whenever next one comes, a rabbit comes after 3 days, he will eat. Whatever comes his way, he'll eat. So he's saying that's what he learned from the python as well. So python, snake, deer, elephant, fish. Tongue is the most important, right? So what we speak about others, the rumors that we spend and all spread, as well as how we get to eat the forbidden things as well. So that's what he learned from the fish. And then he learned from bird. A hunter caught all the baby birds, and the mother bird said, why am I living? I'm so attached to my kids. So she went and got trapped. The husband was saying, oh, my wife and the children are gone, I want to go and get trapped. So no, don't have too much attachments. It's like getting the human life is almost going to the top of Mount Everest. One step away, you trip and fall down. So don't waste this human form of life. So and then he learned from the spider. So one more minute and we'll wrap this. So the 4 insects, so we'll wrap up this 24 gurus, right? Moth, sense of eyesight, right? So the weakness for a moth is eyesight. Have you seen? You keep a candle in this side of the window. In the night, you will see how many moths will come such great speeds, hit the window because they cannot control the sense of sight. They want to self-immolate, fall into the fire. Have you seen that? So even if you have a bulb, the moth will go there. Luckily, it's not too hot there. But if there is fire, so we need to be careful about the attractive things that are there in our life. Many, it depends on the individual. Many things are attractive. Be careful. That's what he learned, and that's why he's happy. So what to do, what not to do is there from the nature that Krishna is teaching us twice, Avaduta and by Krishna. So moth. And then honeybee. Honeybee, don't be too desperate to collect too many things in material life. Oh, double overtime, triple overtime, let me work Saturday, Sunday. What happens if you're too greedy? This beautiful honeybee gets trapped in this lotus. In the evening, what happens? Closes, crushes it if you sit for too long. So that's what he learned from that. And then the spider is the penultimate one. Spider, what he learned is from its own saliva, it creates and destroys. Just like Lord Krishna creates and destroys, right? We have Naimatika Pralaya, Prakritika Pralaya, Adhyantika Pralaya, and then Nitya Pralaya. So destruction at the end of a day of Lord Brahma, destruction at the 100 years of Lord Brahma. Then we have at the time of liberation, Adyantika Pralaya, and then Nitya Pralaya is this, growth, old age, etc. Right? And the last one is the wasp. There was this powerful insect that got a weaker insect. This weaker insect was in the nest all the time in the association. This is the power of association, right? He started acquiring the characteristic of the powerful wasp. So who we are is who we associate with, right? We associate with drunkards, we'll be with them. We associate with the top rank holders, we'll be like them, right? Like it's important for our children too. And at what we think at the time of death, yam yam maapi smaran bhavam, 8.6 I think, right? Yam yam maapi smaran bhavam. At that, Bharat Maharaj was thinking of the deer, he became a deer, right? So I'll conclude with this, where I started, we'll conclude. So the topic that we chose today on this wonderful Ekadasi is, not all classrooms have 4 doors, okay? So we started off with academically, whatever we learn, either what we learned in college and school is not being used in our day-to-day life or at work, because we may be engineers, but we may be doing something else now, etc. Or even if you're a technically perfect person, the technology changes because of disruptive technology, right? We had CD, floppy disk, etc. Everything is changed right now. Taxi to Uber, Best Buy shopping to online shopping. So everything changes. So new learning for manufacturers, designers, employers, employees, etc. But scriptural knowledge, what we learn in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, never ever changes. It's the same information that is there. Implementing that takes a lifetime or more. And where we focused on is Canto 11, chapters 7 to 9, 151 verses, where Krishna is teaching this twice, as Dattatreya to King Yadu and as Krishna to Uddhava, Krishna to Uddhava, where he learned the 24 gurus what to do, what not to do. So this will keep us out of trouble, because trouble always follows us. We don't want more trouble. So how to avoid more trouble is what we learn from this. Sorry, it went a little over, but I would like to stop here to see if we have 1 minute or whatever the time we have for questions. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions from anybody, comments? I know we covered a lot during this 1 hour class, but even if you are able to pick some of them and meditate on the contents from Srimad Bhagavatam, it will benefit each one of us.
It is a very elaborate explanation in the 11th canto. It's talking about Navayogendras, all the complete details are there. So anybody got a Bhagavatam, please read this. It really helps us a lot.
Yeah, and it's easy reading too. So there are sections in Srimad Bhagavatam which might be little difficult or challenging. You have to read it again and again. This is easy reading. So 24 gurus, actually it's 25 gurus, right? So you have one more guru too. He learned from his own body. It's a condensed learning of all what he learned. In a way, he says, just like there is a attachment, or one person has got many wives, the eyes pull somebody towards their needs, the nose pulls, ears and different stomach and everything. So he learned how to control his senses through the body's pulling towards other external objects. Okay. Any comments, thoughts, questions? It was either so clear or it's like gone way beyond. But hopefully you would have picked some points from here. And again, as I said, beautiful day on September 29th, Bhadra Purnima, for you to collect your Srimad Bhagavatam if you don't have a copy. And then you can meditate on the contents at your own leisurely pace, and you will gain so much more insights from that. Okay. 12, 13, 13. That's the verse that glorifies that particular donation. Yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for giving a wonderful, enlightening lecture about these gurus. So my question is, Prabhu, let's say how we open our ears and eyes, even though these things are visible in front of us, right? How we deliberately try to meditate through the scriptures, as you mentioned, right? I mean, books are books, unless and until we internalize that, right? So these examples, how we practically try to meditate, how we can practice that.
Yeah, great question. So the instructions are there, but how do we benefit from the instructions? As we heard before, the knowledge within the notebooks or within the scriptures is like money in somebody's hand in times of need, it's not going to be useful unless we practically implement that, right? And whatever is there in the scriptures are 2 or 3 layers beneath the obvious. So Krishna does not say, eat with your mouth, see with your eyes. Because that's very obvious, right? So nobody needs to teach us that. See everything with your eyes, smell everything with your nose, or eat with your, taste with your tongue. No, Krishna says, Vidya Vinaya Sampane, 5.18, see everybody, equally, right? So it's not like see with your eyes, but see everybody equally, somebody lower, somebody higher, etc. Similarly, Krishna does not say, eat with your, taste with your tongue. He says, no, offer it to me and then eat, then I take off all your sins. So, what is there in the scriptures will be there with us as a memorized verse only unless we implement it. So the implementation is the one that takes time. So how we can practically implement, we can't take all the 24, for example in this case, all the learning from 24 gurus, right? So when we completely meditate on each aspect of it, right? So where this fish is there, right? So fish example is given for be careful about your tongue. Tongue means what we speak bad about others, or the rumors that we spread with our tongue, or the forbidden food that we may be able to take. And then a beautiful verse is there, 17.15. Anybody remembers this? 17.15. Austerity of the tongue. Speak truthfully. That is pleasing, truthful, pleasing, palatable. Yeah, truthful, pleasing, not agitating others, beneficial, and reading the scriptures, right? So those are all what we can do with the tongue. So again, every time when we think of the tongue, okay, I need to be truthful in what I speak. You also know about the triple filter test by Socrates. Have you seen that? Triple filter test by Socrates, right? So he says, somebody came, hey Socrates, do you know about your friend? I have some news about him. Can I tell you about him? He said, wait. Let us put it through the triple filter test. What you're going to tell, is it true? Do you know it's true? Well, I don't know whether it's true because I'm not sure. I don't think so. Okay, let's still put it through the second filter. Is it good? What you're going to tell, is it good for anybody, for him or for me? Actually, it's contrary. It's not good. Okay, so it's not true. It's not good. The third filter, is it going to be useful for anybody? What you're going to say? Definitely not. Then don't even say, right? So these are things that we can practically take one aspect of a time, like from the scripture, like the tongue part of it, because we know Krishna says, Yajñāshistha Sindhu 3.13, you offer it to me and then eat with your tongue. And then we have this beautiful sloka where it says that why you have tongue is only to chant, eat, prasada, right? So practical implementation is the one when we are trying to spread any rumor about somebody. Okay, this is what he learned about the fish. The fish is looking at the meaty bait, but he's not looking at the sharp hook at the bottom, right? So one layer beneath. So the challenge or the lifelong learning is how to implement this. And it's only up to us. No one else is going to do. Somebody can teach us, give us a book, give us the verse, but implementing that is up to us, and it takes the lifelong practice to implement it. So again, repetition causes retention. So as they say, make it till you fake it, right? So we got to keep on doing the thing that is needed, and then it becomes a second nature. So all of us may not be there, but we are definitely beyond where we were before. Before we were at 0%, now we may be at 1, 2, 3, etc. Hopefully that answers. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
One quick question.
Yes.
If you allow me, Prabhu. So Prabhu, when we are talking of learning, I see that there are two ways of learning you alluded in the beginning of the class. That one is we stumble ourselves, break our knees, and we say, oh, here is a stone, let's be careful. And the second one we say is a baniya learning, that a baniya means a shrewd person will see someone getting stumbled upon and then say, oh, we should not be doing this or walking on that path. So these are the two ways. So if you can substantiate with some scriptural, it will be very interesting for everyone to know from scripture some examples where in the first one the person himself fell down and then he says no, not to do it again. Second one is observe someone and then learn the lesson on the learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. So and this 24 gurus of Avaduta is what he learned by observing, right? A smarter person prevents the mistake from happening by observing. A slightly less intelligent person will make a mistake and prevent it from happening, right? So first the corrective action and then the preventive action. But preventive action is much better. So these are preventive action that the Avaduta learned because of what he's watching. Oh, the elephant got trapped, so I have to be careful about the touch, etc. So that's a very good point, Prabhu. So again, our opportunity is because of the scriptures. Even before, there are so many young people here who are reading the scriptures, right? So when we read the scripture, everything in the scripture is somebody getting into some trouble, like Indra. I think we gave one class about all the faults of Indra. Whatever mistakes Indra made, it was all lined up. So it is all for us to know what not to do, because Srimad Bhagavatam not only teaches what to do, but it teaches us what not to do as well, right? So the smart way is reading the scriptures, because it's there from thousands and thousands of years ago. All what is there is collected there for us to learn, understand it, internalize it, and prevent ourselves from getting into more trouble than we already have.
Yes, thank you, sir. And one of the best examples could be Bharat Maharaj becoming Jada Bharata, having learned what mistake he did. And he was given a special benediction to remember what mistake.
Same thing with the elephant too, right? Gajendra also remembered all the prayers as Indradumna. So maybe I'll wrap it up with that, not the pastime, but the only thing is, because we mentioned about Bharat Maharaj. So this elephant, as we know, 8th canto, we're not getting into that, but this elephant was a previously king. As a king, he chanted all these mantras so beautifully for the entire lifetime. He did not see God face to face. But then in the next life, when he was an elephant, he remembered all the prayers, and in the hopeless condition, we heard about, right? Hoping against hope is misery. Utter hopelessness is complete happiness. So in utter hopelessness, like Queen, all these great personalities, he just said, I'm helplessly, I can't do anything, I'm offering all the praise. He remembered all the praise. So the prayers were the same, but the quality of the prayer that was offered by the same person in two different bodies made all the difference. Lifelong he was chanting as Indradumna the same prayers. He did not see Vishnu face to face, and he did not go back with his 4 arms. Whereas here as an elephant, even though he had 4 legs, that converted into 4 arms, and he went because of the quality of the prayer that he chanted once, not lifelong as an Indradumna. So again, that's a motivation for us, again, preventive action, because we learned that these are so many examples that are there in the scriptures for us to learn from and not make the mistakes again. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Wasn't that a wonderful class and a question and answer session? Give me one more big round of applause to Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. So now